Hello, how about another bad opening? I'm James, and with me, as always, is Mike, and we're here to talk about Star Trek in the 21st century.
4 weeks in,
Yeah.
not good openings, not good episodes. I feel so bad saying it like that.
Yeah. Hey, Mike.
Hey,
Uh,
James.
Today I watched Star Trek Lower Decks Episode 4. Did you watch Star Trek Lower Decks Episode 4?
Last night at midnight, I watched this episode, and I should warn everybody who's listening to this right now that James and I are both burnt out because, in addition to the pandemic, we're two people who like to say yes to everything and have been running nonstop and will continue to be running nonstop for the next few days.
So we're just going to jump in on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Let's go ahead and cue the spoilers alert. Now we've just become gremlins of ourselves. So it's not enough Gremlins 2 references in our daily lives. So
No.
all right.
Would you have fucked that lady gremlin at the end? Like, that's Star Trek related. Would you have
Yeah, a
had
little
sex
bit.
with...
Yeah. So, well, it depends on the situation. That guy's situation, yeah, 100%. 100%. Like, hey, the world might be dead. It might be all gremlins now because I've been locked in the bathroom and I have no contact to anybody. And the one gremlin that isn't trying to murder me wants to marry me. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that, like, we can analyze that for a long time. Like, is it survivor instinct where it's like, I will be considered royalty and hands off
Yep.
if I marry Sexy Lips Gremlin?
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd be able to go through with it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Don't know to you there, I guess. We should try to get locked down an interview with that guy. And what was his name?
Robert Picardo.
Yeah, Robert Picardo.
The doctor.
Yeah, the doctor from Voyager. So
what if we go through we go through all the hoops we have to do? We host a Star Trek podcast. Would you like to be on? And then, like, our first question is, did you fuck that lady gremlin?
So it's cool.
Do you think he would hang up?
Yeah. No, you can tell us, man. We're cool.
Lower Decks.
Hey.
After the huge pre-show discussion I had with James saying, let's rein it in on this one and get it in an hour because we're both exhausted.
Hey, Mike, real quick. You saw this episode. Would you give us a rundown of this episode like you always do, one of your legendary rundowns?
Legendary rundown. I definitely will. So the crew of the USS Cerritos comes across the USS Merced, and they have found a giant ship that the crew is dead. They're an ancient crew who were starfarers who were going to look for a new planet to launch this biomimetic gel. I don't even know if that's what they said it was. That could turn inorganic life into life. And so they're now towing it back into Federation space. Meanwhile, the captain decides she's going to teach her daughter, Ensign Mariner, a lesson by promoting her to make her miserable on the ship and make her want to resign. And halfway through the episode, the other ship decides we want to take credit for this, so starts going a little bit faster, wrecks the alien ship, and gets contaminated with this gel that starts making their ship burst into, like, life plants and caves and geodes and water. Same thing happens to our ship, and the crew has to figure out how to stop it.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great rundown of the show. Hey, Mike.
And is there weird B plot, though, was, like, fun, but, like, let's go into that. Meanwhile, Ensign Tendi visits a crew member who decides that he is going to ascend. He has been studying every religion in the universe to become one with the universe. And she accidentally screws up his ascension ceremony, so now he cannot ascend to a higher plane, and she is trying to curry favor with him by helping him ascend and reach nirvana. And at the end, he does, in a really bizarre manner, and I'm happy for him, but it did not feel right. Let's see what you have to say about that, James.
It was a very Rick and Morty moment. It was like almost
Yeah.
like the Morty mind blowers where he looks into the turtle's eyes and he gets all
Mhm.
knowledge. So I
I was
did
trying to
like
figure out how we were gonna approach this. So now that you say that, let's talk about the B plot because it's by itself on that. So the B plot of this character ascending does the same thing that I kind of haven't been a fan of this show, where they just throw out references to series that have come before, and it's for us as viewers, we're like, or longtime Star Trek viewers being like, haha, I get it. Where he's going to ascend and become a higher life form, and Tendi says, oh, like Q or the Traveler, and it's
Yeah.
like, come on.
Yeah.
Even people in the Enterprise didn't know who the Traveler was. Like Picard and the senior staff might have known. So
Yeah.
it was very weird for them to do that. But then now they have established in this episode that him ascending to be a higher being, that there is a koala being at the when you ascend to the next level of existence. And I just felt that was very weird that they went that specific on what the afterlife was to this crew member, to the idea of religion or the next phase of life in the Star Trek universe. I thought it was very weird given the precedent of Star Trek V. Either you hate Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, or you tolerate it. But even in that, they did so many different interpretations of God, where it was like, are you God? And it was like, maybe I have many faces. And they show all these different religious iconography faces. And he's like, but I am who I am.
Yeah.
But then for this episode to be like, yeah, there's a space koala, and now this guy is part of it, was like, come on.
Yeah. It's a choice. Again, with this episode, I enjoyed the B plot more than the A plot, even though the A plot again had more potential to be better. It's at its heart, it's a mother-daughter story. But we're watching a mother-daughter story about the two shittiest humans in the world. So it's like the captain is now like running to become the shittiest character. You know, it's like we had Namor as our shittiest character, and now her mother is like trying to grab that role, and that kind of was a shame, because there were, again, I didn't like this episode either, but there were moments and there were ideas, and this is the most laughs I've gotten out of one of these episodes. Bad stuff is what I'll start with. Hey, Mike, has there ever been any sort of material that takes dead matter and makes it into living matter?
Well, yes, it's called proto-matter, and it was the reason that the Genesis device was so unstable and why the Genesis planet exploded.
Yeah. So it seems very odd in a show that wants to throw every reference at us that we have a ship filled with Genesis material, basically, and no one's going to mention that. You're going to mention Sulu has a sword. You're going to mention the Traveler. Yeah. You're going to mention all the, and you're not going to mention it. So that kind of just bothered me.
It was weird that they didn't take it as seriously as it was, because anybody who knows Star Trek would know, oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
Like the beginning, they show like the gel touched someone's tricorder and it became a plant. And it was like, clearly this is what's going to happen in a few moments. But you would think that by this time in this universe, they would know, let's be as careful as possible, or let's destroy this because this could be a dangerous weapon.
Yeah. So, and this is when I realized I am, you've said a couple of times and I agree with it. This show is not for me, and I might be an old curmudgeon Star Trek person. No. But the exposition first scene, I was pulled in. I was very pulled in with them saying like, oh, the ship, we don't know how they died. Classic Star Trek, start with a mystery. There's something that is wrong that we got to figure out why it's wrong. And on it is a bunch of basically Genesis device matter. And we have to be very careful with it. And they're giving this not a long exposition scene. That scene's like 2 minutes. And then Mariner just keeps yawning and making fun of it and how boring and stupid it is. And that was when I was like, man, cool. The one bit of writing I liked where it felt Star Trek-y. where it was like, hey, we have this thing and there's this problem with it. What are we going to do with it? Or this is our plan to do this. How are we going to best achieve that? And then just to
It's a
have our
story that could fit an entire episode or even an entire movie, where it's like there is this substance that can do that, and how valuable that is, even like modern day, the way that the environment is going. A substance like that would be the most valuable substance in the world, and it's not treated as such.
Yeah.
And instead they go for the jokes with the yawning, which I thought, if you're going to do something where you're going to be insubordinate, it felt like that was way too cartoony. It wasn't smart enough for the show that they've established. It was very like, haha, she's fake yawning, but it felt so lowbrow. It's the first time I feel like this episode or this show has gone silly and childlike, because it was just this exaggerated yawn, and it was like, I'm sure you could find a better way of being respectfully disrespectful than just yawning.
Well, use that stuff. I was absolutely waiting for them to bring up, Starfleet experimented with this sort of stuff, a couple hundred years ago. It's extremely dangerous. No one wants it. It, turned a damn moon into a planet, and then that planet was a disaster. It like nearly killed everybody. So I was waiting for that would have heightened the stakes, and it would have given us more. At least for me as a Star Trek fan, pulled me in more into the story. And instead, it was just like, nope, we got to haul this mummies, and there's this weird mystery on the ship, which we will never bring up again. And I was like, yay!
Yeah. That's what I found was weird. You do that, and you establish this very good plot, and then don't do anything with it. Mm-hmm. But what instigates the plot into high gear is that the captain of the rival ship, and I hate even saying rival Starfleet ship, decides that he wants the accolades, so he's going to tow it a little harder and causes crisis. And it's like, come on, I can accept this crew, the Cerritos that we've been following, feel a little out of touch and feel a little resentful that they're like the mop-up crew. Mm-hmm. But then to come across another Starfleet ship that feels the same way and is being petty about wanting to basically be towing it a little further, was like, I don't like that. That's making them like petty, and I don't like that. Like you've said, it's sort of unintentionally bridging the world between Star Trek The Next Generation and Picard by showing these people with flaws, and I don't want that.
I'm getting ready to go on the news and have a meltdown, and then go to a Romulan bar and throw the fucking sign in the dirt. Like, I get that now. Like, I get all of Picard's choices. I owe Patrick Stewart and those writers an apology, because if I had been a part of the Next Generation of the Next Generation crew in that time period with Starfleet, and then I was in Lower Decks time of Starfleet, I would have such a bitter resentment against everybody and everything that I would be a fucking problem. And no explanation given. I would fuck Geordi. I wouldn't contact him when Data shows up.
Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, Lower Decks, and then the upcoming Christopher Pike Enterprise show are trying to put themselves as actual continuity that have happened in all of these stories of Star Trek that we've had over the last 50 years, but they don't care if they contradict anything. And I feel that that's a bad way of going about storytelling, and we're finally hitting it here in this 4th episode of Lower Decks, where to suit the story and to suit the conflicts that you're having, you're giving us a different interpretation of something that we've loved for so many years, and you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah. The new incident, it's Tendi goes over to see somebody's going to, have transcendence and, become all knowing and whatnot. And she goes full on like Steve Urkel and trips on and breaks.
Weird.
Because it led to something interesting to talk about. But the way they got there was a monkey on a typewriter, where it was like, she'll walk right in the middle of it and then go play with something that belongs to somebody else, break it, and then fly all over the room. And it was you could hear the laugh track, you could, that's how bad it was. It was like, did I do that? And just, So we had that, but then we got into the story of her being upset because somebody didn't like her, no matter what she did, which I think that's a real, that's a real topic to talk about. let's talk about that. People that are obsessed with everyone must like me, and when somebody doesn't like me, it really I'm freaked out or I'm on edge, which is a real
Especially
thing.
in a world where there is no human conflict. The general conceit is that humanity has surpassed conflict. What kind of story can you tell about someone who isn't accepted?
Yeah. So I thought that was going to be something. They didn't really do anything with it, although we get the cyborg character gets a second pudding, which was another fun moment. I just was it
Rutherford.
Rutherford. He's just my favorite because he even had a dumb joke where he was like, "Oh man, my duties are I gotta align these particles, and I want to align these other particles." And then later they show him, and he's like, "These particles are aligned amazingly. I don't know why I was upset." It's I was just like, "Oh, Rutherford, you're who I want to be in Starfleet." So. And then the bad stuff for me was just I couldn't believe the A plot was forced and weird. So the mother wants to get rid of her daughter, so she's gonna give her all the horrible jobs. And I liked that moment of her having fun with the horrible job of like, hey, let's
Mhm.
take bets of who could do this. And I was like, oh my god, that might be her character. That was like that might be an out to the character if you gave her every horrible job and she still turned it into pumpkin pie. That could be really interesting. And then they had that and they throw that away. So then she promotes her, which upsets Boinger, whatever his name is. And uh, then there's a montage of her being a lieutenant. And the montage consists of her in a meeting where everybody's arguing, her going to her mom's jazz recital, because that's mandatory, and her going to play poker, which is mandatory. So it was like, these aren't even really things.
The poker was the moment. Anytime someone folded, they went, "Oh, good for you."
Yeah.
Like that was the
Yeah.
I can understand the first officer saying, "Why do you let her talk like that to you? And why do you let her get away with this stuff?" But when she does it to the admiral at the end, who is giving them awards, that admiral would be like, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be a matter of like, "I guess this is just how it is on this ship."
Yeah.
When you bring in an outside admiral, that's leading to an issue that's more going to be more structural. And again, I'm saying this stuff about a cartoon, that a comedy cartoon, but that's the problem with it being established that it is Star Trek continuity, where
Yeah.
it does not. That would be an issue.
Yeah.
And I think that there were smarter ways to get out of that.
Yeah.
Like, she could have played dumb, or she could have done something that wasn't just overt disrespect.
Taking the world seriously is important for how things operate. If we had a Superman cartoon and he stops a bank robber and then he like looks both ways and steals some money and puts it like under his cape, it'd be like, okay, while that would be funny to see, that wouldn't be Superman. So a lot of Superman fans might be like, Superman just robbed the bank as a joke. And that's what it feels like when those sorts of things happen.
I'm struggling because I've liked it so far, but this one, I don't know if it was the story or what they decided to do with it. It felt like this one really showed the trouble it's going to have with longtime fans and their acceptance of this show, because it did break what I thought would be believable story in the Star Trek universe. But again, it is a cartoon.
It is a
So
cartoon,
I
absolutely.
can't be too rough on it.
But where
Then let's get into what we liked about it. So you
Yep.
laughed out loud a few times. What are the things that you did like?
I like the idea of doing an episode about parents and children and how they interact, and should they work together, should they live together at a certain age, and things like that. Because I think that could be relatable, and that's a rich vein to kind of get stuff from. 3 other people that also had to clean stuff off. I think they were cleaning carbon off a bigger piece of carbon.
Yeah,
They like made a joke about that.
was ascension ceremony, and ran to a replicator and said, "Computer, colored sand warm," and sand just appeared and then fell. It was a simple sight gag, but it then to me shows that the writers at least know the framework of Star Trek enough to make a joke like that and have it happen. But then you have to decide, are you going more for the comedy, or are you going more for this is an in continuity Star Trek show? So it's a rough fine line.
So yeah, I like the Transcendence, the Ascending, was painful, because of course it would be. Like, and that's something I've never thought about before. So that's
right.
that's like where it felt like Rick and Morty, but that is also where Rick and Morty kind of shines, is sometimes they shine light onto a thought or a concept that makes you go, oh my God, yeah, I never looked at it that way, and that's brilliant.
Weird way of going about it. But then for me specifically, when they started coming to an understanding of like, oh, you do know your stuff, you did read my briefing, you do know how to counteract this stuff, I liked those character moments, but then it gets thrown away at the end of the story.
Yeah. We even had the Submariner did something in this episode. That's been one of your beefs, has been the opening never has anything to do with the main plot, and it did this time. And one of my big beefs is she keeps saying she's the greatest at everything, and we've never seen her do anything. Like, we've seen her ruin things. Like, you can't be, I'm the greatest. And it's like, now I'll sit in the cage and watch the other guy fight. I'm the greatest. I ruined our trip to this planet. I'm the great. Like, we haven't seen this character accomplish anything. This time we did. She went into the teleporter room and figured out the chemical they would need to get rid of this stuff. I even liked how the stuff got to their ship, even though I'm sure there could be some arguments made that there's no way it would go up the tractor beam like that. I like seeing
that. Was cool though. It was a nice image to me.
I thought that would be something we would see on Next Generation. They wouldn't have the money for the effects or the ability to do it, but it would be those cheap vines you would see on the corridors, or right. So it'd be something like that. But I could see, like, hey, it's a forest now inside the holodeck,
in the hallway, and that would be it. They would then say like decks 10 and 11 are flooded, deck 13 has this, and but they would have just had the vines on the hallway.
But they would have,
I think
they would have tried to figure it out, and that's what her and her mom did. Now, in order for them to figure it out, they had to sit there and just pee on each other the whole time. It was just like, I don't know, an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's where I fall. I liked the episode, but the faults I had with it is that it being bound to being in continuity Star Trek hurts it, and that's where I find the flaws to it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was a great example of what you can do with Star Trek when you're not confined to the live action weekly budget, and found that great, but it still hasn't found its place. I don't believe that you would go an entire season with Mariner acting the way that she does, because something would happen where someone would be like, get out of Starfleet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could watch 2 seasons worth of a character continually doing such juvenile dumb things and not smart dumb things. So
the writing's just too many missed opportunities. It seems like in the writer's room they have a good idea, and then who's ever sitting down to punch these out needs some help.
I like this as a cartoon. I like it as its own show. I don't like it necessarily as part of the Star Trek universe. So if I have to rate this one like we have on our Darmok scale, I would give this episode 2.5 Darmoks out of 5 Jalads.
Okay.
I would say that this episode, to me, was Picard on the holodeck trapped as Dixon Hill.
It's good stuff. That's not bad. It
was all right.
Yep. I'm gonna give this one 2 Darmoks out of 5 Jalad, and I'm going to rate this Spock's scream of no at the end of Star Trek Into Darkness. I get what you were trying to do, and I bet on paper this fucking killed. Because you're mirroring the original Star Trek 2, where Captain Kirk has got a zinger for everybody, and everybody just sits there defeated and quietly says no, which as a kid was heartbreaking to me. And then how do we have Spock be the alternate universe of that? Should be all the emotion that Spock has been hiding or suppressed comes yelling out. But what it did was just make me go like, so, this is... Spock
if his con scream had been him going like a seething like con, it would have been like, oh shit, Spock's pissed, not the cartoon that we got on the big screen.
So that would be it's Spock's scream from Into Darkness is what this
You got
episode
it.
is. All right.
I think I found a new way of formatting this show, and I'll give it as a preview for us for the
All
future,
right.
where we will talk about the show, we'll do what we do, but anything that we reference, we then now at this point will talk about all the different things that we're referencing. We're like, oh, so this week in Star Trek, or this week the Batman trailer came out, or this week this happened, and then we cut and paste the Star Trek talk to be at the end. Because there's so much more I want to talk to you about, but I'm exhausted. I want to talk to you about the Batman trailer. I want to talk to you about the Dune trailer, which I just showed to other people on Zoom. And I would for you as well, but I already had to run up and down these stairs so many times here at work. But the Dune trailer is cool. But there is so much nerd stuff we need to talk about. And I kind of feel like we constrained ourselves by talking Star Trek, but I know that had to be our in, but I'm enjoying this. So hopefully the fans are too. If you're not, give us some suggestions. I'll set up an email address for next week. But tell us what you thought. If we've had any comments, if you have any comments for us, reach out to us on Facebook. You know where to find James, you know where to find me, and let's talk. Let's converse more with the people. And let's set up like a Zoom chat room where we can get some other nerds in here and do like a party line.
That'd be great.
Let's get laid.
All right. All right, that's it. We'll see you next time on Damage Reports.
Good night.